Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. Advocates from the civil rights and women's movements have had a visible impact on Hollywood. Still the largest minority group in America, people with disabilities barely registers in major studio productions. The JCC Manhattan proved their loss when in 2007, its director of film programs presented the first Reel, and I mean REEL, Abilities Film Festival. 12 years later, those festivals are now held year-round in major cities across the country and abroad. Isaac Zablocki, a founder and its director, is my guest, and I welcome you very much. So tell us how it all started.
Well, I was running the program at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan.
The film program.
The film program there, and our focus is really on films for social change. And one of the topics we always dealt with was the topic of disabilities and showing films on that topic. And I really felt that this is an underrepresented minority. I knew very little about the community, even though I personally am connected to it. And as luck would have it, I met with Anita Altman, our co-founder of the festival, and she was running a network of disability groups at UJ Federation, and we joined forces. And it's exactly what ReelAbilities is about, because I came from, I'll say, the artistic perspective as far as bringing in quality films that are impactful, while this can't be disconnected from the community and can't be run in a vacuum. And she really brought that element to the table, and together we formed that first festival.
And she had also money.
Money helps.
From Federation.
We very quickly were able to support this, and it has now grown into, as you mentioned, I mean,
Let's just accentuate how many people there are who live with disabilities compared to other groups. I mean, it's what, between 20-25% of the population?
That's what the count is. It's the largest minority in America. It's very tricky also because many of the members of the disability community don't want to consider themselves part of the disability community. Of course, those who are most vocal want very much to be recognized and want the word disability in the forefront, while others really hide from it. So it's really hard to tell. In the workplace, of course, percentages, people who acknowledge that they have a disability are much, much lower than the amount of people that actually work with disabilities. And of course, not enough people with disabilities are hired. There's tons of unemployment, but most of all, on television and film representation, less than 1%.
And the public reaction to people with disabilities has been more structural. I mean, like, transportation, curb cuts and stuff. But the humanity of living with a disability and being productive has really not been. That's what you're doing.
Well, really, now we're heading towards 30 years of the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, and that changed exactly what you're saying. It changed the law. Now we need to change the culture. And I think film does a great job in doing that. It opens a window for a lot of people who don't want to recognize that they're connected to that community, which, by the way, is everybody in America has a connection to that community.
Because I don't hear well as I get older.
Everyone, if they don't have a connection, chances are they will have a connection as they get older.
Exactly, especially as the population ages.
Right, and it's also about family members, community members. You're always connected to. This is a movement that cannot be ignored.
So how large is your film festival now?
So our festival runs in over 20 locations across the U.S. Here in New York itself, we've been running in close to 45 locations during the festival. And the idea of that is really to make it accessible, for it to be in as many locations as possible. So not everybody has to come to just one place in Manhattan to see the films, but even in Staten Island, there's a location there so people can access it. We show about 30 films a year. And these then travel around the world. We've expanded into Mexico, so now we have a Spanish language festival. Brazil just had its first one, and it's growing across the globe.
And in Europe?
Europe is our next location. We're working on it.
In Israel.
And we're expanding, I think, into all continents.
Yeah, and in schools.
Schools as well. We have a wonderful educational program.
That's what I wanted to talk about. I want to hear about the educational program.
So during the week of the festival specifically, we realized that we have our theater reserved at the JCC Manhattan throughout the week. So we started opening it for schools to come in for free during the week. And it's great for schools, it's great for us, and we have the filmmakers there. So everybody comes together and has conversations about these films, and they're our favorite events of the week, I have
And
to
you
admit.
select films that are appropriate for the age?
Appropriate for the age, of course. So, you know, we'll try to challenge them. No, we try to be very appropriate, and we have things that are appropriate for absolutely every age, every walk of life. Sometimes a group comes in and says, show us something about autism, show us something about people with physical disabilities, whatever the group really needs, there's something for everyone.
And people who do these films, I guess there's a network, isn't there, of people who are filmmakers. So it's not hard, is it, to get filmmakers to submit films to you? We
get about 500 submissions every year, which is wonderful, and we have to say no to a lot of great films, which is a good place to be in. Unfortunately, we're one of the few, some of these films will not get shown anywhere else, and if we say no to a film, they might not get shown anywhere. So it's not easy. This is not a population that other film festivals or other distributors really know how to take on. These are not films about people with disabilities. A lot of groups won't touch, a lot of festivals won't touch, or they'll touch their one symbolic one. They don't realize, like, as you said at the beginning, just like Sundance is trying to include more diverse filmmakers, women, African Americans, all diversity minority groups, the disability group needs to be included, and that's often an afterthought, unfortunately.
It's so funny because, I mean, the film, Stephen Hawkins, that was well received, wasn't it, in the general marketplace?
So Hollywood likes, I'd say, every couple of years to put out their big kind of disability film. Often the acting is not done with an actor with a disability. And rarely does that happen. I mean, Children of a Lesser God, of course, was one where they did it right. But mostly actors from Hollywood like to take on those roles and win awards for it.
Veterans and things.
Yeah, but this actually excludes actors with disabilities from getting these roles. So we want to see more of that, and that's something that we push for. And we love seeing authentic portrayals. And I have to admit, after years of seeing films that have more authentic portrayals, these films are actually stronger films because you're seeing a deeper portrayal of the disability, a more nuanced portrayal of the disability, and not the cliches that Hollywood sometimes brings to the public, which honestly don't always help the disability community as far as breaking down stigmas.
And the films are made by people with disabilities or are about people with disabilities?
We say by and about. We look for films that really tell a progressive and insider perspective that are relatable to everyone. It's not, this festival tries to reach two groups, both celebrate the disability community and give them a platform, but at the same time also bridge gaps between the disability community and the mainstream community and bring the whole community together. We don't want this festival to be in a vacuum.
And what I read someplace is the technological innovation that's sometimes shown in the films. I mean, if a person with disabilities is the filmmaker and it can be difficult to film, tell me about that.
I mean, first of all, technology in general is changing the disability community in amazing ways, and it's fascinating to watch how this develops. And that goes from even little things like every film's followed by a Q&A, by a conversation with the director or an expert or people who are related to the film. And what happens sometimes is people from the audience will have people who are on the spectrum who are nonverbal. And they'll ask their questions through an iPad, which this is an amazing thing, an amazing tool that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. And watching the technological changes is specifically in the film world, people can direct films now from their beds. You don't have to actually be able to walk to direct a film. You can edit from home. More and more people with disabilities are getting into the film industry, and hopefully jobs will open up and more filmmakers with disabilities will actually rise to the calls.
And if for the blind, is there a Braille translation?
So we have audio description for that. We didn't know this the first year that the blind community would be interested in our festival, and we got demand. And now at first we just added a few films that had audio description because actually films in New York independent films like ours were not being audio described. We had to train describers to who this is an art form. It's kind of like you need to be directed. You have to really tell the whole story of the film, everything visual that you're seeing from a very objective perspective.
I remember sitting next to a person who was describing to the wheelchaired person next to her the film, because the person in the wheelchair was blind. It was.
So now we have that for all the films, and that lives with the films. We create it for every single film, and it lives with the films throughout these films' lives. So wherever it ends up, there's always audio description, there's always captioning. We bring in ASL interpreters, live stenography, CARTs it's called, to make our conversations more accessible. There's little things that every festival can do to make their festivals more accessible, like even if you have hearing aids, to make sure that the conversations after the films happen through a microphone that's connected into the loop system, so anyone who is following the film through a hearing aid, and hopefully they have those systems that you can connect directly to the film's audio, can actually hear the conversation through that same system, and that will make everyone feel more included.
And I'm sure every year you find something else to add or do.
Every year there's something new. First of all, we always like to explore new disabilities and be more diverse with our disability inclusion. Just the other year we included a film, 2 years ago, we included a film about migraines, which was a new topic that we had never explored before, that of course affects such a huge population. Most of those who have migraines probably don't consider themselves people with disabilities.
I was going to say that.
Right.
Did they come to see it?
Sure. I actually asked the audience. I surveyed the audience. My first question after the film was, how many people here have experienced migraines? And it was amazing to see this wave of hands go up. Yeah, sad to see, but of course, so many
How do you
people.
select the films?
We have a selection committee mixed of people from the film industry, from the disability community, of course, and we comb through these films and look for films that are telling something new about disability. We're not looking to tell the same old stories. We're not looking to tell pity stories or over-heroic stories. We want great human stories. And we look for great, I stand there as the person who's constantly saying, is it good cinema? Is it good film? The last thing we want to do is to show films that aren't great. And luckily enough, we have too many films to choose from. And it's a wonderful problem to have.
Now, the films that don't get shown, do you sort of give them advice about how they could, do they put them on YouTube? Can they put them online themselves? What can they do?
They do. We're about to launch this year. We made a promise that by 2020, we're going to launch a streaming site to have these films highlighted.
Oh, that's
we
great.
have now 12 years of films in our library that are sitting on a desk, and they're on a shelf, and they're going to different festivals that we run, but they're not being shown enough, and a lot of them are collecting dust. So we're going to start a streaming site, and hopefully the population will come out to see these films.
And these are films that haven't been shown previously in the festival?
Many of them have been shown. All the films that we have shown, and those that haven't been shown, we're going to have to make the decision how to best include
the filmmaker, right?
And get them out there.
So describe some of the films. Tell me a couple of what different things.
It's every topic, it's every genre, and we like these films. We like the films, as I mentioned, the progressive approach is films that are going to surprise you about disability. My favorite, personally, are films that are not about the disability, but rather include disability in a human story. And it's not saying it's not ignoring the disability, of course, but it's not forcing you to really see only the disability, but make it as relatable as possible through a great, thrilling human story that happens to include a character with disability, and that disability means something to the story as well. And
can you tell us a little bit more?
There's so many great examples to take from, but there's a film that I loved from a few years ago that was about a young woman who was dealing with a sexual harassment case in her school, in her high school. A question of her relationship with a teacher. And her psychologist happened to be in a wheelchair, played by an actor who is in a wheelchair, and he brought to it really a deep character of someone. Here's a person who has a day job. He happens to be an actor in real life, but in the film, his day job is to be a psychologist. And
he's a psychologist, not the teacher.
And the relationship between this young woman, the high school student, and her psychologist, and their characters coming together the fact that he had the disability added such a deep level to the film that that I felt that this was one of the better films. There's an element of bullying, which is often a big part of this community's experience. That was something that also created a relationship between the two of them and came across in their attitudes towards one another.
Are you surprised at the number of actors with disabilities?
I'm surprised at the lack of actors with disabilities who are getting roles and are getting out there. It's a field that they are really struggling with, and this is a movement that we've become a part of, and we have been, we get casting calls weekly to try to bring actors out there with disabilities for roles and make that change in Hollywood, because Hollywood is not doing a good enough job to include actors with disabilities. They feel like it will be too hard for some reason. They'd rather bring in an actor without a disability and even do CGI to make them seem like they have a disability when there are plenty of actors with disabilities out there who are hungry for roles.
I wonder in the executive level, I'm sure they're not represented there either, most likely. I shouldn't say I'm sure.
Not enough. Not enough at all. We are not seeing that. I'm seeing actors are definitely underrepresented, but I'm seeing it across the board. There's a lack of representation. Part of this is part of a bigger problem that in general in the workplace we don't see enough people with disabilities.
It was quite exciting with the Tony Awards, wasn't it?
Yes, yes. I called that one. I said, when I saw the show, I said, she's getting a Tony for this.
Isn't that amazing?
And it's not about, there's another great example. Oklahoma, her role was not about the disability. They don't even talk about it. I would have liked them to talk about it a little bit more, but it was kind of just, it added some depth to that character of who she is and added a fascinating angle. And the fact that she got a Tony, I hope will start changing the industry a little bit.
Interesting. So tell us about how you got involved in film.
In film, film is how I learn. I see film as education. And this is how my brain works. That's how I'm wired, and I feel that that what we're doing with ReelAbilities is trying to educate. All of our programs at the JCC are films that I think are creating change in our community and helping people see parts of their community that they might not have access to, or giving them new perspectives on the world. And
what other festivals do you have?
We have the Other Israel Film Festival, which runs every fall, and that's about minority populations in Israel. And it's a controversial festival that brings in great films from Israel and around the world and talks about the Palestinian community in ways that nobody else is talking about this community. We go beyond the headlines, beyond the cliches, and really into those human stories. And then we also we're starting now a social justice film festival that's going to premiere this January, I'm excited to say. And that's a festival that's also going to highlight a lot of the areas that we are very engaged with as a center and have not had enough. Even though I think on a weekly basis we show films that all relate back to social justice, we have not had the opportunity to really give it the attention that it deserves.
I wonder if there are films made in prison.
Interesting. I've seen some. I've seen some related to that, absolutely, and from around the world too, which is interesting to see films, how prisons work in different parts of the world.
So, but you didn't tell me fully about your background.
So I actually grew up in Israel. I was born here in the United States, but grew up in Israel, and I got my film education in my military service. I was in a film unit and spent 3 years from 18 till 21 making films, educational films, and that's where I got passionate about education as well, making films for the Israeli military, and it was called educational films, which is another form of propaganda.
That mandatory service is really very interesting. It's aside from the danger that it might have, otherwise it's really a very sensible thing to have happen.
It's a wonderful program that in many ways I think every country should have some sort of social service. Also, not going straight from high school, one bubble into college is a great way to grow up. And in Israel, it's really part of the society, and you could go there and become a teacher in the military. You can become a filmmaker in the military, and I got to learn that. And then I went on to Columbia University where I studied film, and that really balanced out my education, and I was passionate about making a change through film. So I very quickly left the production world and got into presenting films like I do now.
So interesting. It really is. So when they have a film festival in a different place, do they have the same? You don't run it, do you?
Thankfully not. In every city, it's run by its own organizations.
So you've really accomplished a great thing.
It's kind of franchised out.
Yeah, you've inspired these local communities to really do something more.
It's taken off, and I have to say that there's more demand than we can keep up with. We don't have the bandwidth to keep. There's every week we're getting requests from new cities around the world, and we really want to train them correctly and put them in the right place to be able to present a responsible festival. And it takes a lot. This is not an easy festival to run. You have to, know this is a tough community to reach. This is a tough topic to breach, and to have really a community that can take that on. You have to be very well connected and very invested, and that's something
And the disability groups really help with you?
Absolutely. We partner with over 100 groups every year who are part of our community. The real challenge is going beyond these groups, getting those mainstream groups to come in and say, we try to promote films not
So
because of the disability,
You try
because
to
of
an
whatever
environment where somebody will buy a film.
Absolutely, and films have been bought out of our festival and have received distribution. So that's a wonderful acknowledgement, and it's definitely a festival that gets a lot of attention. And I've learned so much over these 12 years that as much as possible, I've become, in some ways, an advisor to a lot of other festivals and filmmakers on how to be more accessible, how to be more inclusive. And we've been going into corporations around the world, really, and sharing some of our short films. And
Now you do that.
we do that. I personally go in to the corporations and present these films and use it as an opportunity to have kind of inclusion training and teach more about the disability community, about disability in film. And it's a great way to open that door and have people connect to disability.
That's so interesting. So you've become a master organizer, whether you know it or appreciate it or not.
Thank you. I've definitely become a part of this movement.
Because you're building two things. You're showing what it is, and then you're building a constituency that's going to agitate to show them someplace else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope to inspire more people to present these films and to get involved, and it's been very successful. I believe anybody who sees our films, at first they might say, oh, disability film, I don't know if that's for me. Once they see our films, they're like, this is great. Sometimes they'll say it's the best film they've ever seen. These are films that will stay with people. And again, we don't work on the pity card. We don't play that. We try to show films that are not going for just to play on your heartstrings, but rather are just really great films.
Now you're getting the organizing thing from me. Do you hand out postcards, or do you suggest people write to major studios or to the Academy or to SAG and say, we want more films like this?
I mean, we're part of that of that movement.
Right.
I don't know if it's postcards or just. I feel like the films are the best way.
No, I don't. Postcards really isn't enough. They should either email or write a letter. Or
we have
call.
We have a call to action after every film.
Oh, good.
I think that's our job.
Yeah.
We're showing these great films, but that's not the bottom line. The bottom line is these films inspired you. Okay, now let's do something. And here's where you go to do something. I think that's a crucial element, and that's why we have those conversations after the film. We don't want to just leave those films in the screen and in the atmosphere.
Right.
We want to actually tell
really
you,
want to change the world.
here's where you give.
Yeah, you're going to change the world.
I hope so.
Right.
Film
Tell
by
us
film.
just a little bit about the JCC, because there are people who don't know it and don't know that it welcomes everybody and what the facilities are.
The Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan is a vibrant community center on the Upper West Side where there's something for everyone at every age group, every walk of life, and
Every religion, every color,
religion, yeah.
everything.
More than 5,000 people enter our building every week and enjoy the programs, and from prenatal programs to death-related programs. And I'd say we're a very progressive center that actually thrives on pushing the community towards new elements and programs that they might not yet be in the comfort zone for.
And you have an actual theater that you show these films in?
We have a fabulous theater that seats over 250 people and with a great projection system. And since Lincoln Plaza Cinemas closed on the Upper West Side, we've been showing films really on a weekly basis just to try to bring a lot of films that are not not getting Upper West Side access, bring them to our theater and let our audience enjoy them. And we have a great audience that comes from not only New York, they're from the whole metro area, and they come daily.
So people can see the film schedule if they go to ReelAbilities.org.
ReelAbilities.org has our ReelAbilities Festival. JCCFilm.org gives you our weekly screenings, and we screen films. Right now, we're doing a small release of a film that's going to be released in theaters and doesn't have an uptown location that relates to disability, and we're going to show it in an accessible way. We actually are creating for this film. It's audio description and its captions, and that's going to be screening at the end of August. So there's always something. You don't have to wait for the festival. Our next festival comes up in April.
So thank you very much. We've come to the end.
Thank
but
you.
I hope describe this wonderful festival. Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you.